realize more and more that although America is the land of diversity, it's not really the land of equality. And actually, it's far from it. There are so many problems that we have that have been deeply rooted into the system and into our legislature even.
As a South Asian American, I definitely have experienced racism, whether it's being unwelcome in certain buildings throughout my lifetime, whether it's being asked certain questions in interviews that my white classmates were not asked, or even wondering, is my name, because it's not common in America, am I being selected in applications for grants and scholarships and jobs and things like that?
I usually am immediately assumed not as intelligent as my peers that are like white or some sort of other race that isn't really a minority at TJ specifically.
TJ students have this idea that like race is such a big issue at TJ, when really the problem is that there's a lack of diversity and a lack of people that are like truly informed.
People say they have friends that like make racist jokes and when no one's looking, or like say the N-word or stuff like that. If you want the problem to stop, you can't keep on doing it in secret, is what I'm trying to say, because you still have that mentality. So it's just good to see, even when you don't see other people, like even if there's no Black people around, you should need to call those stuff out and make sure that they don't keep on doing it.
From my experience, some of my Asian classmates will never face racism, and you might not either. I think that that's a good thing. The goal is less racism, and we shouldn't have to search for personal oppression before we are allowed to care. In fact, I think it's really important that we continue to care even when something is good for us.
You need to be actively anti-racist, not simply not being racist, and simply not doing bad things isn't enough. And I know in my time, a lot of people used to just do, the salsa dance at I Night and the step dance at I Night and not really do anything else with those clubs. Well, that is a form of appropriation. You have to be able to acknowledge and support those groups, understand their issues, and take an active stance of calling out your classmates when they say something racist or they say something that might be inappropriate.
There's always more that we can do, and I think that comes from every side of the aisle. Like whether you're white, Black, Hispanic, Asian, everyone has to be aware and discuss it.
TJ will give us so many advantages in life, but personally, I think that we have a duty to even out the playing field.
There is room in this world for all kinds, including you and me. Eradicating racism and prejudice against Asians, Black people, and everyone will take a long time and won't be easy. That's why we have to do it together, one day at a time, one heart and one mind sometimes at a time.
The question the Jamboard asks is, what stereotype that you have about your own culture, and how can you work to change these perceptions? And you guys can think about what the word culture means to you. Obviously, culture means a lot of different things. It's not just about race. Take a couple of minutes to think about this question and respond on the Jamboard when you're ready. But I'm going to leave the Jamboard open in case anybody would like to contribute. We're going to be moving on at this time in the BBCU to another video. This video is going to be a little bit different, and I'm going to give you the introduction to it first. To conclude our lesson today, we're going to watch a video about intersectionality. It's a means of understanding social relations by examining intersecting forms of discrimination. In this video, 4 TJ students will discuss their experiences as Asian Americans and how this intersects with other minority groups. They'll also discuss why it's essential to support each other in the movement toward racial equality. We'll go over the main points at the end.
What is intersectionality? Intersectionality is a way of understanding social relations by examining intersecting forms of discrimination. This means acknowledging that social systems are complicated and that many forms of oppression, like racism, sexism, and ageism, might be present and active at the same time in a person's life. Everyday approaches to building equality tend to focus on one type of discrimination, for instance, sexism, and then work to address only that specific concern.
All right, so just to reiterate the key takeaways there, intersectionality is a way of understanding social relations by examining intersecting forms of discrimination. It's important to recognize that we all possess different experiences that don't negate each other's, but at the same time Our need for racial equality is not different. We need to empathize with each other, have open minds, be educated, notably on curricula that are overlooked, such as Asian American, Native American, and African American history. And it's about 2:55, so at this time, I just want to note for you guys that there is a survey that they would like me to share with you. We're going to have a follow-up lesson concerning TJ's mascot. It is going to be presented later in the springtime, and any feedback that you can provide on this lesson, whether positive or negative, can be used to improve that follow-up lesson in the spring. They want me to also reiterate that the feedback form, which I'm putting in the chat, is completely anonymous. So you can feel free to complete that if you would like to give any kind of feedback. Last but not least, I promised you some additional resources. Here they are. I shared in the chat earlier on when Berlin was asking for it, the link to the presentation. And I'll share that again in case you'd like to access any of the resources that are on this extra resources page. It is 2:56 and we are finished. Thank you guys so much for being here today and for giving me your emotional and physical attention. This weekend is the start of spring. Please enjoy it. Have a lovely weekend. Make good choices. And I will see you all back here for the last week of spring break, or not, if you don't have me as the teacher. Our